today we are going to be talking about defense mechanisms. Okay. We're going to be talking about what it looks like in your life to identify those either in yourself or in the people that are close to you. So I think this is really a good um, opportunity to do that because you hear a lot about the use of denial and things like that. You get a lot of defense mechanism talk. So why not actually discuss what they look like from a psychoanalytic perspective and not just the pop psychology? So one of the biggest things I think is we have to look at what function that they serve. Recently, I was hearing about kind of a mother wound that someone was describing, and her mother had actually uh, continued to dismiss the client's issues and said that the client was just being too sensitive. And this happened throughout this client's life, right? And so we discussed how denial can actually be a way to guard the self from actually experiencing the emotional uh, troubles of another person and could leave you protected from any of that capacity for empathy, right? Because feeling someone else's pain, especially as a parent, means that you probably need to change things. But if you're unwilling or unable to change whatever situation is harming your child, well, you're probably going to be in immense pain. And so when people who have sort of that primitive narcissistic developmental level are confronted with information that would cause someone a little more developed emotionally to feel sadness, the person who is more solipsistic or self-contained and only sees their own reality as what exists, well, that person is probably going to deflect that and maybe even deny it and say, well, that's not really going on. That can't be happening, right? Oh, that's not happening at all. And so denial is a very primitive, we would call it, defense mechanism that leads to a lot of um, really missed cross communications and difficulty in um, experiencing sort of this the pain of others. So, or even your own, like experiencing your own emotions. Like if you're in denial and you're not radically accepting what's going on, right, then you're actually um, experiencing kind of this false reality and saying, I'm fine, everything's fine. So that's never a good place to be. And when we as therapists are helping clients with that sort of configuration, we have to be somewhat sensitive and say, well, what you're telling me sounds like you're saying, you're in a great relationship, for example, but what's actually happening and what I'm observing is that you're saying your partner's never able to meet you for a date, like maybe once a week at most, and you're engaged, or maybe once a month, and you're saying this is your soulmate. So those are the kind of things we have to do when we're helping clients to move out of that denial emotional defense mechanism. So splitting is a big one. So this is one that you're going to see very often in your life, and the longer term for it is splitting of the ego, and it refers to viewing people or situations as either all good or all bad, with no integration of positive or negative qualities. So the black or white thinking here serves to avoid anxiety provoked by, guess what, ambivalence. So it undermines mature relationships, though, in an integrated sense of self, because if you see yourself or others as all good or all bad, then you've basically gotten rid of the ambiguity, which just means the suspense there. And you're able to say, well, I'm either all safe with this person all the time with what I want to say or do, or I actually am completely in danger and I have to cut this person off because I can't bother to weather the emotional complexities of the situation. Now, this overlaps quite a bit with dating and social media because the way that social media algorithms work, right, is to split you into echo chambers. So, you want to find your perfect partner. You want to find the greatest person for you. You see commercials all the time that lean into this. And so, what does that mean? Well, if the person gives a hint that they are um, not quite perfect, then there's going to be some difficulty there in weathering that and saying, I'm open to you because you've been marketed to and taught that, guess what? Nothing matters if the person's not perfect. So we're being taught to split. We're actually being trained in how to split our egos and see ourselves as this perfect online representation and see others as either all good or all bad. And so not a lot of therapists are talking about the fragmentation of the self and then the primitive ego configuration of that virtual system that sort of that's what we would call, so you've got like a virtual system when you divide a computer up from itself into something to do an experimental model. So basically what that is if you have a part of your computer and it's a simulation, right, of a physical computer, and it's a computer within a computer. So it functions independently and runs its own operating system apart from the wider computer. So my hypothesis is actually that when we join online dating platforms, we're creating a virtual system of ourselves that has less bandwidth and power than the actual three-dimensional version, right? And so we're using more primitive ego defenses and mechanisms for engaging with others because there's a rapid system one thinking that we have to engage in, either swipe left or right quickly. And so that system one thinking from Daniel Kahneman, right? From Thinking Fast and Slow. So this might be kind of a bite-sized little stream here because I think there's a lot to unpack and I would like to get into it more in detail. But essentially, think about how you split others or situations in your life as all good or bad, and how we need more processing power to say, well, this exists and this is nuanced. And I can dedicate the mental power to recognizing that it's nuanced, right? So that's just an actionable tip for you right now. Hope you enjoyed this. And let's see. Let's see what we got going on here. I might reboot it here. This was a fun little solo stream. All right, I'll edit this part out. I want to see what's going on. I am streaming over here from the great app of Substack. From the great. Oh, you can hear it. So, yeah, there we go. Who do we got on here? Thank you to all the viewers. And I'm also on X. So, all right. Perfect. Thank you for joining.